Thank you.
Thank you, Zoe. Let's now move on to Liz.
Thank you, Chair. If I could ask Dr. Scharf, what is the status of the Change Associates review of workplace culture you commissioned following the Hugh Edwards court case, and when might it be published?
Thank you for that. This is really a very important matter for me. If you were to ask me, I've been here a year, and what I wasn't expecting was this procession of men abusing their power, from Hugh Edwards to the most recent thing. I am determined to stamp this out. We commissioned Graham Russell and Charlie, Change Associates, to look into that, and I've been talking to them regularly, and I've been reporting back to the board, and the board has been taking it. So we are determined to do this. Right now, they are working on it. They've done all the interviews, done all the work on it. We're now discussing what actions we're going to take. I'm also very keen that it's not another set of processes. I actually want real action, visible action, that demonstrate that if you step out of line, we can enforce it, and that something is done. One of the things that seems to me a theme of all the reviews that have taken place is that junior staff feel disempowered to call out more powerful people behaving badly. We have to find a mechanism and a system that allows them to do that. That they don't think their career's at stake. They don't think somehow they're going to be moved out somewhere else. That they don't say, well, actually we can't, because this person is more powerful than me, and the management would say, oh, well, why don't we just move this person out? Those are practical things we need to do, and we need to do it, and we need to enforce it. Now, the report will come to the March board for final discussion, and will be published during April. At that point, I will personally take ownership of this and talk about what we're doing. I feel very strongly about this. It's not right. The BBC of all should be setting the example. I'm very pleased that Baroness Kennedy has started up the CIS thing. We're heavily engaged with them. We want the whole of the creative industries to be involved, but we should be setting the lead, and we should do that. And I will own it, and I will speak about it publicly once the Graham Russell has produced it and it's gone through the board mechanism. We're looking at the board in March, and then in April for publication. Good.
We've spoken a lot about trust today. Have you been able to recover any salary from Hugh Edwards?
We have not. I think Tim may ask. We've obviously asked, and we've said it many times, but he seems unwilling to it. There was a moment that we thought that he might just do the right thing for a change. Clearly decided not to. Tim, have you got any more on it? I don't think we've heard, you see.
And there's nothing you can do to
I don't think
compel him
legally
to give that back the money?
No, we've made the request, and we've looked at taking legal advice. That's where we are.
It's quite frustrating, this, really, because you think, I think he should have done it. He could still do it. It's not right. He's taken licence fee payers' money, and he knew what he'd done, and he should return it now.
Can you give us examples of what actions the BBC has taken as a result of recent high-profile cases of misconduct?
Yeah, there've been a number of specifics. Remember the recent case, the Tim Westwood case. Tim Westwood was about 20 years ago. Russell Brand was also quite a long time ago. Tim Westwood was over a long period of time. Russell Brand was more specific. There have been specific processes that have, in response to particular cases. That's not to say we've fixed the problem. Even though we responded, and Tim can spell out the responses we've made to our, but we have yet to fix the problem. Now, it may be, you could say to me, will we ever fix the problem, given the profound nature of it? But I think we could do a lot more. But Tim, you could spell out what we've actually done.
And this, I think, let's just do the process and the culture, because they sit beside each other, and I think you can hear that we've faced these major issues in this industry. I don't think we're totally unique, but this abuse of power, we want to finish it. And I've said very clearly to the organisation and where we're at, we're all of the people that work across the BBC. I want to touch on indies, because I think that relates earlier to, because I think that's really important, the work CISA are doing. I think where we've made real progress on a number of fronts. Firstly, versus those historical decades-old cases, we often a couple of things were really clear, which is you often had things raised up and they just kind of stuck in their silo. We now have a specialist case management process that there's, if anything serious or even anything coming across through the BBC, it is joined up and gets referred up. I'll come to the need for someone to raise it through whistleblowing, because that's the point, if they need to raise it. But if it's raised, we are not in a situation that doesn't get visibility across the BBC and it's taken seriously. And if anyone's got examples of that not happening, that is a absolute grade one issue for me, because I don't believe that happens. We've got anti-bullying and harassment policies, we've standardised our complaints process, and in our latest research, about 70% of staff feel comfortable to raise issues. Now, I've got a mixed reception in my mind, as you can imagine, which is 70% is better than, I could parade out industry norms where we're better than most places, but that means 30% still are not quite comfortable enough to. So that's where I'm healthily dissatisfied in that. I think we are therefore encouraged by the Change Associates Review is another chance not to push enormous amounts of process, but make sure that I'm particularly interested in the practicalities of what actually happens on the ground with a line manager when you see something. How do you raise it? I think this is where the industry's really got to get to. Get that confidence level up to call it out. And also there are things that you hear that may be described as banter or other things. Let's be honest, that culturally things change. Which you don't quite know, is that something I want to raise or not? So I think we've done this in other areas. I think we need to give people more help on that. Is just be very clear, we've got zero tolerance. But we are taking action whenever we see it. You can see, think about the individuals, they're not on air that we've had recently. We're not tolerating this. But that's only as good as making sure on the ground it's working. The vast majority of the BBC, and you're welcome to come anytime, open access to see, talk to leaders, talk to employees, talk to staff, talk to colleagues. We're proud of the way the BBC works, but we've had these instances, and it is to do with how power is abused. That's it. And we need to address it. It will be, at the Change Associates, I really want practical guidelines, and that's what I'd ask of the work, for line managers and building confidence among teams just to never tolerate even something that they can see as marginal they raise.
So are you confident you can stamp it out?
Yeah, I think you can never, I want to be realistic, you can never ever be in a situation where you can say one rogue individual who's doing something, potentially using their BBC kind of status and abusing it outside work, which not all these instances are the same. Yeah, these are not all instances of, we've had things in our past that are really horrendously grim in terms of cover-ups internally. The Westwood Review found no, predatory sexual behaviour. It was bullying and misogyny that wasn't referred up and joined up. That is very, very serious, believe me. But what I would say is you can never say, organising 23,000 people and all the freelancers, that you're never going to have issues beyond the BBC. What I can say is we can get to a point where I think flawlessly we say zero tolerance, and also you're catching stuff very early. You're never accepting that someone is abusing power in the workplace. I think there's something quite profound about no one being indispensable, if I may. I think you can get into a situation where, and this may be, you can think of other areas, banking, health, where you'd go, that person we can't live without. And part of the review work is to make sure that everyone is clear that that is no longer ever acceptable.
Can I add to that? Because you've heard that I've taken personal ownership of this. That's partly because I'm aware of it. I've worked on programme making, and I know that I've dealt with presenters who are quite full of themselves, let's put it that way. And in some ways, they're talented. But because we work to make them good, there's a kind of cultural issue. They become more and more full of themselves and start behaving badly. What we must do, we can never control how people behave, but what we can do is to empower the staff and change a culture. So no matter who this person is, the BBC is bigger than them. We can live without them. Right? And I need to bring about a change within the culture of the organisation, and genuine way, where junior member, middle manager say, this person out. We can do that. We can do that. We can't control individual human beings where they want to abuse things, but if they do, by God, we can make them go. Because we are bigger than them. The BBC is bigger than them. The history of the BBC is we have loads of people present it, and we make them stars. If they misbehave, out. We can do that.
Thank you. Paul?
Dr. Shah, you started by saying one thing you were not expecting when you took over as chair of the BBC was to have a year full of succession of allegations about workplace misconduct by men. I mean, my question to you would be, where have you been for several years? If that wasn't
no,
your
it's more in terms of
expectation?
what I was. If you were to ask me, what would be the board agenda last year? The first thing that came up was Hugh Edwards. Then there was Jermaine Genius. Then there was Strictly. Then there was Greg Wallace. Then there was. I wasn't expecting that. It's not that I've worked in this business. I know it. But what I was just talking about, the extent to which it just kept coming and coming and coming. And admittedly, timing, some of this, when I first arrived, I was told in March, this time last year, the Russell Brand report would be coming out. It's going to come out in a couple of months' time. Then Tim Westwood report was going to come out. These are old reports, they've been commissioned, but they've all landed in my first year, is what I'm saying.
I get that.
I listened live to the Russell Brand story, so of course I knew about
Sure,
it.
and I accept the Director General suggests that things have improved in terms of reporting processes. But Director General, you did talk about that 30% who still perhaps don't feel safe working for the BBC, that you are worried about, rightly.
It's comfortable.
Comfortable,
It's an
okay.
important distinction.
Comfortable, but
Thank you.
within that there'll be some who don't feel safe, I imagine. Now, you're right, you pointed out to the Tim Westwood review, which was produced last week, a cost of £3 million, I might point out.
Yep.
A long review, in-depth review. One of the most worrying findings in that independent report was that those who were effectively on the wrong end of Tim Westwood's behaviour said there was, quotes, a feeling they could not raise issues with the controller or other people in senior management because of the importance of the talent to Radio 1 and Radio 1 Extra. Now, Mr. Davey, you were director of audio at the time. Do you take any personal responsibility for that culture, the fact that those staff felt that they couldn't?
Of course I do. I don't want people to be in workplaces where they feel they can't raise issues. It's not my style. It's not how we should work. And I think if people were, you can't, when you're doing a job at director level with thousands of people, be on top of everything. But at the end of the day, if that person would have exec producer and the controller, and if they didn't feel that confidence, that's the problem. Of course it is.
You think that's changed?
I think, yes, I do think, I honestly, because we've got a joined up system where you've got whistleblowing, you can go beyond that. I just think the data says we've changed. Now, you're only as good as your weakest link, so I think there's constant vigilance in terms of where culture is not working properly. But certainly, the way I am talking to the top 300 leaders of the BBC is absolutely, I think, in a completely different place to where we were years ago. But you're only as good as what you're delivering. And I think, to the chair's point, this year we've had a number of instances. Part of it may be a reflection of just us moving now to a world in which some of this stuff is just unacceptable in terms of what was lived with. And some of it might not be criminal activity, but just frankly stuff this is completely inappropriate for a workplace in 2025. And I think people have been thinking, is that something also, do I raise that? How does that work? We're being very clear on that. I think the Change Associates report will help that as well.
Thank you very much. Rupert, did you want to come in on
Yeah, I
that?
just wondered what happened to the report Banijay commissioned into Greg Wallace. It was the end of last year.
They're doing their work, and we're waiting. We're hoping weeks, not months.
Okay, I'm curious to see. They instructed a solicitor, didn't they? Again, there is an
Well,
issue about
once you
for
do
that.
these things, there's a question of scope, and once you do these things, you've got to do them properly. So they've got to talk to everyone and make sure there's
But
nothing.
they've instructed a solicitor. It's not an independent inquiry.
As
They're
I
paying the solicitor. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a Banijay-led inquiry,
And it's not concluded yet.
and it's
Okay.
not concluded yet.
Thanks, Rupert. I mean, I think that your point, Dr. Shah, is that there have been these people who are often referred to as talent, who are effectively the gods of television, not just at the BBC and other scandals on other channels.